So we could make a difference. Thank you for your question, Fiona. Moving on now to Dr. Samantha Batt-Rawden, who's president of the Doctors Association UK and an intensive care registrar. Samantha.
Thank you, Alice, and thanks for having us here today. I just wanted to thank Kit for his very important point that actually behind each bar on the graph we've seen today are hundreds of families that are grieving for their loved ones. And I think for all of us, especially as doctors, thinking that we could have saved more lives if the government had acted faster is, that's really hard. And I think that question will continue to haunt us. And I do wonder if we'll be facing our own mental health pandemic within our profession in the not too distant future. But my question really as an intensive care doctor is around staff sickness and ICU capacity. It's reassuring to see today that hospital admissions and deaths are levelling off, but certainly in the north and in the Midlands, I think it feels for doctors like we are now where we were in March. Certainly as intensivists, we're doing everything that we can to create extra ICU capacity, but this does mean cancelling operations, using anesthetic machines as ventilators, having to close wards and create high dependency areas and critical care areas. So we're doing everything we can. I think we're really struggling in terms of staff at the moment. So we can create the beds, we can get the equipment, but actually if there's no staff, specialist staff to look after those patients or to man those ventilators, all of this is for nothing really, and it's just not being talked about. Several of my colleagues are off sick. Several of them are actually in hospital with COVID in the hospitals where they work. So, and we heard from Simon Stevens yesterday that over 30,000 NHS staff are currently off sick. So my question really to the panel is, how can we protect the front line? How can we help with staff sickness? And how can we maintain our capacity within the next 3 weeks, particularly in those hardest hit areas?
Thank you very much for that question from the front line, Samantha. Christina.
I mean, the way we should have done it is to lock down when Sage said it, in mid-September, and you wouldn't have been here. Now I'm hoping that this lockdown will relieve pressure, not immediately, but in the next few weeks. It is, I do really worry that there's this kind of idea that if the NHS can cope, it's all right. Whereas I think there's a generation of people working in hospitals, nurses, doctors, all hospital support staff who had to cope with wave one and are now doing it again. And I'm worried that we're going to scar people for life, people that we need and value. And I just don't think it is talked about, just the mental and physical pressure of working in that kind of environment. And that it's not just about making sure the NHS isn't full, it's about making sure it's nowhere near full with COVID patients to allow, normal winter care to happen. So, once this lockdown ends, we have to keep cases low. We absolutely have to. And if they do start rising again, we have to act sooner. I mean, I think that's all we can do.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that question, Samantha. We're going to move on now. I'm going to squeeze in a few more questions today. So please, questioners, keep your questions